The evening rush at Wick's Wicked Good Burgers in downtown Los Angeles was in full swing. The restaurant, one of 37 locations across California, had built its reputation on quality ingredients, reasonable prices, and a laid-back atmosphere that welcomed everyone from students to celebrities. What most customers didn't know, however, was that the chain's silent partner and co-founder was none other than Keanu Reeves, whose friendship with Chef James Wick had led to an investment partnership 5 years earlier. Zoe Chen, 22, and in her final semester at UCLA, had been working the register at Wick's for almost 2 years. She prided herself on maintaining a positive attitude regardless of how hectic the shift became or how difficult the customers might be. Tonight was particularly busy. A nearby concert had just let out, and hungry concertgoers were flooding the restaurant, forming a line that snaked toward the door. "Welcome to Wick's," Zoe greeted each customer with genuine warmth, efficiently taking orders while making brief but meaningful connections, complimenting a child's t-shirt, asking about the concert, remembering a regular's usual order. Her manager, Derek, had often commented that Zoe's natural empathy and attention to detail made her one of their most valuable team members. As the line inched forward, Zoe noticed a man joining the queue. Tall and lean, with shoulder-length dark hair partially hidden under a faded baseball cap, he wore simple jeans, a worn black t-shirt, and a denim jacket. Something about his calm presence amidst the bustling crowd caught her attention. While other customers checked phones or chatted impatiently, he seemed content to simply observe, occasionally making eye contact with other customers and offering a small smile. What Zoe didn't know, what none of the staff knew, was that this man was Keanu Reeves himself, visiting the location as part of an unannounced quality check he occasionally conducted at various Wick's restaurants. While James handled the culinary side of the business, Keanu had taken particular interest in the customer experience and staff welfare aspects of their growing chain. As the line moved forward and the man drew closer to the register, Zoe noticed 2 teenage girls behind him whispering and glancing in his direction, clearly trying to determine if he was who they thought he might be. The man seemed aware of their attention but maintained his low-key demeanor, neither encouraging nor discouraging their speculation. Finally, it was his turn at the register. Up close, there was something familiar about him that Zoe couldn't quite place. Perhaps he was a regular from another shift, or maybe he just had one of those faces that seemed naturally recognizable. "Welcome to Wick's," she greeted him with her customary smile. "What can I get for you today?" "Hi," he replied, his voice carrying a gentle resonance that immediately triggered a flicker of recognition in Zoe's mind. "Could I get the Wicked Classic with extra pickles, sweet potato fries, and a small lemonade, please?" As Zoe entered his order, she asked her standard friendly question. "Having a good evening so far?" "It's been interesting," he replied with a small smile. "I just got back to LA yesterday. It's good to see the place so busy." Something in his phrasing, referring to the place rather than this place, caught Zoe's attention. Combined with her growing sense of recognition, it prompted her to take a slightly bolder conversational approach than usual. "Are you a regular at other Wick's locations?" she asked as she processed his payment. "You could say that," he replied with a hint of amusement in his eyes. "I try to visit as many as I can." "Well, I hope we live up to your expectations," Zoe said warmly. "Your order number is 57. It should be ready in about 10 minutes. We're a bit backed up with the concert crowd." "No problem at all," he replied. "I appreciate you taking the time to be so friendly despite how busy it is." As he moved to the waiting area, Zoe's attention was immediately claimed by the next customer, and the brief interaction was temporarily filed away in her mind. The evening continued at its frenetic pace, with Zoe maintaining her upbeat demeanor despite the increasing pressure of the rush. About 20 minutes later, as the crowd began to thin slightly, Zoe noticed the man with the baseball cap still waiting for his order, which seemed to have been delayed longer than it should have been. Without hesitation, she signaled to her coworker Lisa to take over the register and stepped away to check on the status of order number 57. In the kitchen, she found a slightly chaotic scene. One of the newer cooks had mistakenly prepared several orders incorrectly, causing a backup in the system. Derek was trying to sort out the mess while maintaining the flow of correct orders to waiting customers. "Derek," Zoe said, "Order 57 has been waiting for almost 25 minutes. It's just a wicked classic with extra pickles." Derek glanced at the order screen and grimaced. It got caught in the backup. "Tell the customer we'll comp their meal and it should be up in the next few minutes." Zoe returned to the waiting area where the man was standing patiently, observing the operations of the restaurant with what seemed like more than casual interest. "I'm so sorry about the wait," Zoe said, approaching him directly. "There was a mix-up in the kitchen, but your order should be ready in the next few minutes. We'd like to offer you the meal on the house because of the delay." Instead of the annoyance many customers might have expressed, the man's response surprised her. "That's really not necessary," he said. "These things happen, especially during a rush. I'm not in any hurry." "That's very understanding of you," Zoe replied, genuinely impressed by his patience. "Most people would be pretty frustrated by now." "Life's too short to get upset about waiting for a burger," he said with a philosophical shrug that struck Zoe as oddly familiar. "Besides, it gives me a chance to observe how the place operates under pressure." Something about this comment, combined with his earlier phrasing and her nagging sense of recognition, caused pieces to suddenly click together in Zoe's mind. She looked more closely at his face, past the casual disguise of the baseball cap and subtle beard, and made the connection. "You're Keanu Reeves," she said quietly, ensuring other customers couldn't hear. "And you're not just checking out the restaurant as a customer, are you?" A flicker of surprise crossed his face, followed by a small, appreciative smile. "What makes you say that?" "The way you talk about the place, how you're interested in operations, the fact that you're so understanding about the wait, and well, I've seen all the John Wick movies," she added with a slight smile. "Though I promise I won't tell anyone if you don't want me to." Instead of denying it or seeming uncomfortable at being recognized, Keanu seemed genuinely intrigued by her observation. "You're perceptive," he acknowledged with a nod. "Yes, I'm connected to Wix, though it's not something we publicize. James is the real talent behind the food. I just help with some of the business aspects." Zoe's mind raced with this confirmation. She had been working for almost 2 years at a restaurant, partly owned by Keanu Reeves, without having any idea. Yet instead of feeling starstruck, she found herself oddly calm, perhaps because of his own grounded demeanor. "Well, in that case," she said, maintaining her professional composure, "I should tell you something that might interest you as an owner." Keanu raised an eyebrow, clearly intrigued. "I'm listening." "Your employee benefits package is good, better than most food service jobs, but there's a problem with the tuition assistance program," Zoe explained, seizing an unexpected opportunity to address an issue that affected her and several coworkers. "It only applies to business and culinary programs, which makes sense for a restaurant chain, but it excludes a lot of working students who are pursuing other fields." This was clearly not what Keanu had expected to hear from an employee who had just recognized him. "That's very specific feedback," he said, his expression thoughtful. "Why does it matter to you personally?" "I'm studying environmental engineering," Zoe replied, "and my coworker Lisa is in nursing school. We both work here because the hours are flexible and the environment is positive, but we can't access the tuition benefits that marketing or culinary students can. It seems arbitrary, especially since you're likely to lose good employees either way once they graduate." Before Keanu could respond, Derek appeared with a tray containing the long-awaited order. "Number 57, he called out, then noticed Zoe speaking with the customer. "Oh, Zoe, is this the delayed order you were checking on?" "Yes," she replied smoothly. "I was just explaining the situation and apologizing for the wait." Derek handed the tray directly to the customer. "So sorry about that, sir. As Zoe probably mentioned, it's on the house today." "Thank you, but really not necessary," Keanu replied with his characteristic gentle tone. "These things happen." As Derek returned to the kitchen, Keanu turned back to Zoe. "That was an interesting point about the tuition program. Would you have a few minutes to discuss it further after your shift? I'd value hearing more of your perspective." Zoe was momentarily taken aback by the request. "I'm off at 10, she said. "But aren't you, I mean, Don't you have more important things to do? A small smile crossed his face. More important than understanding how to improve a business I'm partly responsible for? Not really. If you're comfortable with it, I'd appreciate the conversation. No pressure, though. I'd be happy to, Zoe replied, still processing the surreal turn her evening had taken. I'll meet you after my shift? Perfect, Keanu nodded, picking up his tray. I'll find a quiet corner to have my dinner and catch up on some reading. Take your time. As he walked away, Zoe returned to the register in a slight daze, trying to maintain her professional demeanor while her mind processed what had just happened. She had not only recognized the secret celebrity owner of her workplace, but had somehow ended up scheduling a post-shift meeting to discuss employee benefits with Keanu Reeves. The rest of her shift passed in a blur of transactions and customer interactions, though Zoe maintained her usual attentive service despite her distraction. Occasionally, she would glance toward the corner table where Keanu sat, sometimes reading something on his phone, sometimes simply observing the restaurant operations with thoughtful attention. At exactly 10 o'clock, Zoe clocked out and changed from her Wix t-shirt into her own clothes, a simple UCLA sweatshirt and jeans. She found Keanu still at his table, now with a notebook open beside his empty food tray. "Is it okay if I sit?" she asked, feeling suddenly shy now that she was approaching him as herself rather than as an employee. "Please," he gestured to the chair across from him. "And thank you for taking the time after your shift. I'm sure you're tired." "It's not every day you get to give feedback directly to the owner," Zoe replied with a small smile, settling into the chair. "Especially when that owner is, well, you." Keanu chuckled softly. "I'm curious, what gave me away? I thought the baseball cap was a pretty good disguise." "It wasn't your appearance, actually," Zoe admitted. "It was how you talked about the restaurant, like you had a personal stake in it, but were trying not to show it. And then when you were so understanding about the delay, most customers don't care about observing operations under pressure." "Perceptive," Keanu nodded appreciatively. "Most people either don't recognize me at all or immediately focus on the celebrity aspect. You saw the business connection instead." "Well, I've been working here for almost 2 years," Zoe explained. "I care about this place. The staff is like family, and customers generally appreciate what we do. That's rare in food service." "That's exactly what James and I hope to create," Keanu said, leaning forward slightly. "A place with good food that treats both customers and staff with respect. Now, tell me more about this tuition assistance issue." For the next half hour, Zoe explained her perspective on the employee benefits program, providing specific examples of coworkers who would benefit from expanded educational support. As she spoke, Keanu took notes, occasionally asking insightful questions that demonstrated genuine interest in her input. "So your suggestion would be to open the tuition assistance to all fields of study?" he asked, looking up from his notebook. "Yes, but maybe with a tiered approach," Zoe suggested. "Full assistance for fields directly related to the business, like culinary arts or management, and partial assistance for other fields. That acknowledges the company's priorities while still supporting all student workers." Keanu nodded thoughtfully. "That's a nuanced solution. I like it." He made another note, then looked up with a more personal question. "Environmental engineering, what drew you to that field?" "I want to work on sustainable water systems," Zoe replied, warming to a topic she was passionate about. "California's drought issues aren't going away, and we need better infrastructure to conserve and recycle water, especially in the restaurant industry, which uses so much of it." "That's actually relevant to Wix long-term planning," Keanu noted. "We've been discussing sustainability improvements for future locations. Have you thought about how restaurants could better manage their water usage?" What had begun as a conversation about tuition benefits evolved into a broader discussion about sustainability in the restaurant industry, with Zoe sharing insights from her studies that clearly intrigued Keanu. As they talked, the initial awkwardness of their celebrity-employee dynamic faded, replaced by a genuine exchange of ideas between two people with shared interests in business ethics and environmental responsibility. "You know," Keanu said after Zoe explained a particularly innovative water recycling concept, "we have an operations team that's currently planning our expansion into Northern California. They could benefit from your perspective on these issues. Zoe blinked in surprise. Are you offering me a job? More like suggesting an internship possibility if you're interested, Keanu clarified. You clearly have valuable insights at the intersection of environmental engineering and food service. It seems like a natural fit, especially if you're looking for practical experience in your field. Wow, Zoe said, momentarily at a loss for words. That would be amazing, but isn't this a bit unorthodox? Offering an internship to a cashier you just met? Keanu smiled. Most innovation happens when we step outside orthodox approaches. Besides, I'm not offering anything based on our brief acquaintance. I'm responding to the quality of your ideas and your obvious dedication both to your studies and to your current role here. He pulled a business card from his wallet and slid it across the table. This is James Wick's contact information. Tell him I suggested you reach out about the sustainability internship. He'll understand. Zoe accepted the card with a slightly dazed expression. Thank you. This is unexpected. Life's most interesting opportunities often are, Keanu replied with a philosophical tone. But before we wrap up, I want to circle back to your original point about the tuition assistance program. I think your suggestion has merit, and I'd like to bring it to our next leadership meeting. Really? Zoe asked, surprised that her feedback might actually lead to policy changes. Really, Keanu confirmed. The best businesses evolve based on input from the people who make them work every day. Your perspective as both an employee and a student is valuable. As their conversation drew to a close, Keanu stood and extended his hand. Thank you for your candor tonight, Zoe, and for recognizing me without making a scene. I appreciate that more than you know. Zoe shook his hand, still processing the surreal quality of the entire interaction. Thank you for listening. Most owners wouldn't take the time. That's probably why most businesses miss opportunities for meaningful improvement, Keanu observed. Success isn't just about the bottom line. It's about creating environments where everyone, customers, employees, even owners, can have authentic, respectful experiences. As Keanu prepared to leave, he paused. One more thing. I'd appreciate if you kept our connection to Wix relatively quiet. James is the public face of the business, and that works well for everyone. Of course, Zoe nodded. I understand. With a final smile and a small wave, Keanu Reeves, actor, businessman, and apparently attentive owner, slipped out of the restaurant and into the Los Angeles night, leaving Zoe standing with a business card in her hand and a story she could barely believe had just unfolded in her ordinary workday. The Wix Wicked Good Burgers staff meeting was buzzing with anticipation. Derek had called the entire team together before opening to announce some significant company updates, and rumors had been circulating about expansion plans and potential menu changes. Zoe, now working part-time while also interning with the company's operations team 2 days a week, sat near the front of the group. Her dual role gave her a unique perspective on the business, having experienced both the frontline customer service aspects and the behind-the-scenes planning that shaped the chain's future. Good morning, everyone, Derek began, uncharacteristically formal. I have several announcements today, but I'll start with the one that affects many of you directly. Effective next month, Wix is expanding its tuition assistance program to cover all fields of study. A murmur of surprise and excitement rippled through the staff. Besides Zoe, Lisa, the nursing student, squeezed her arm in excitement. The new structure will provide full assistance for culinary and business programs and 50% assistance for all other accredited educational pursuits, Derek continued. The leadership team believes this change better reflects our commitment to supporting the whole person, not just the employee. Zoe couldn't help the smile that spread across her face. Her suggestion, offered during that surreal late-night conversation with Keanu Reeves, had actually been implemented company-wide. Additionally, Derek continued, we're launching a new sustainability initiative for all locations. Each restaurant will be implementing water conservation systems and responsible waste management practices designed to reduce our environmental footprint. This announcement hit even closer to home for Zoe, who had spent the past 2 months working with the operations team on precisely these initiatives. What had begun as an unexpected conversation with a disguised celebrity owner had somehow evolved into concrete changes that aligned perfectly with her personal and professional values. After the meeting, as staff dispersed to prepare for opening, Derek approached Zoe with a knowing look. "Pretty impressive how those changes align with what you've been advocating for," he observed. Zoe shrugged with a small smile. "Just lucky, I guess." "Lucky?" Derek raised an eyebrow. "Or connected? James Wick himself mentioned your name in the leadership email about these changes." "Really?" Zoe asked, genuinely surprised by this detail. "Really," Derek confirmed. "Something about perspectives from unexpected sources leading to meaningful innovation. Care to share how a part-time cashier got the founder's attention?" Zoe considered how to respond while keeping her promise of discretion about Keanu's involvement. "Let's just say I happened to be in the right place at the right time, and I wasn't afraid to speak up when the opportunity presented itself." Derek studied her for a moment, then nodded with newfound respect. "Well, whatever you did, it's changed things for a lot of people. Lisa's already talking about applying for the tuition assistance. It would make a huge difference for her." As Derek walked away, Zoe felt a wave of satisfaction that transcended her own career opportunities. The changes she had helped initiate would benefit colleagues she cared about and align the business with values she believed in, all because she'd recognized Keanu Reeves and had the courage to offer honest feedback when most people would have simply asked for a selfie. Later that week, during her internship hours at the Wix corporate office, Zoe was reviewing water usage data when James Wick himself stopped by her workstation. "Zoe Chen," he said with a warm smile, "the famous cashier with the environmental engineering mind. I've been meaning to thank you personally." "Thank me?" Zoe asked, standing to greet the culinary entrepreneur whose vision had launched the entire chain. "For recognizing an undercover boss and having the presence of mind to offer substantive feedback rather than being starstruck," James replied with a knowing look. "Keanu mentioned you might not have realized how significant that conversation would become." "I had no idea," Zoe admitted. "I just saw an opportunity to address something that mattered to me and my coworkers." "Well, that opportunity has evolved into company-wide policy changes and this internship program that's already showing promising results," James said. "And I should mention, Keanu was quite impressed. He doesn't give out his personal approval easily." Zoe felt a flush of pride at this revelation. "Is he involved in the day-to-day operations often? I haven't seen him since that night." James chuckled. "He's more involved than most people realize, but in his own unique way. He likes to understand how things work from the ground up, which is why he occasionally drops in unannounced. His perspective keeps us honest on the human elements of the business rather than just profits." "That aligns with how he approached our conversation," Zoe observed. "He seemed genuinely interested in creating systems that work for everyone involved." "That's Keanu," James nodded. "Fame hasn't changed his fundamental belief that businesses should enhance lives, not exploit them." He glanced at his watch. "I should let you get back to work, but I wanted to personally let you know that your internship is being extended through the summer if you're interested. The sustainability team has requested you specifically for the Northern California expansion project." "Really?" Zoe asked, barely containing her excitement. "I'd be honored." "Good," James smiled. "And don't be surprised if you run into a certain undercover boss at some point during the project. He's particularly interested in how the water conservation systems are implemented." As James walked away, Zoe returned to her data analysis with renewed enthusiasm. What had begun as an ordinary evening shift taking burger orders had somehow cascaded into a career opportunity that aligned perfectly with her environmental engineering aspirations, all because she had recognized not just a celebrity, but the deeper purpose behind his incognito visit. The story of that night had already become something of a personal legend for Zoe, the evening when an observant comment to Keanu Reeves had changed the trajectory of her professional life. But beyond the personal benefit, what stayed with her most powerfully was the lesson in how businesses could operate when leadership genuinely valued the perspectives of everyone involved in the enterprise. In a world where celebrity owners might be expected to remain distant figures concerned primarily with investment returns, Keanu Reeves had demonstrated a different approach, one based on genuine presence, attentive listening, and a willingness to implement meaningful changes based on feedback from all levels of the organization. And perhaps most importantly, Zoe realized as she reviewed the water conservation data that would help shape more sustainable restaurant operations, her unexpected encounter had revealed how a single conversation, approached with authenticity and mutual respect, could ripple outward to create positive change far beyond what either participant might have initially imagined. For Keanu, it had been simply another undercover visit to understand his business better. For Zoe, it had been an ordinary shift disrupted by a celebrity sighting, but their brief intersection had created something neither could have accomplished alone, a moment of genuine connection that transcended hierarchy and celebrity to focus on what truly mattered, creating systems that worked better for everyone involved. In the end, the most stunning revelation wasn't that Keanu Reeves owned part of a burger chain, or that he occasionally went undercover to check on operations. It was that when offered honest feedback from an unexpected source, he had actually listened and then taken action that would improve lives beyond his own. And that, Zoe reflected as she continued her work, was perhaps the most remarkably un-Hollywood ending to her celebrity encounter story. Not a selfie or an autograph to brag about on social media, but tangible, positive changes that would benefit real people, all because a cashier had recognized not just a famous face, but an opportunity to speak up about what mattered.